Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thanks for joining us for today's webinar, What are the True Drivers of Loyalty in the Minds of Consumers? If you're attending this webinar, you want to know what actually makes customers loyal and what drives engagement. Brands have strived to solve this puzzle for decades. Sorry, I think we had just a little bit of a blip there. So I'll just take this back. So if you're attending this webinar today, you'll want to know what actually makes customers loyal and what drives engagement. Brands have strived to solve this puzzle for decades. Giants like Amazon, Sephora, and Starbucks have developed novel approaches, but there really is no one size fits all to loyalty. Brand loyalty is complex, and even with the unprecedented amount of customer information available, brands still struggle to get inside the heads of their customers. It's one thing to look at what your customers are doing when engaging with your brand. It's another to know what they're thinking. That's a little harder to find out, and what we're going to dive into today. So to get started, I would first like to make a few introductions. Our speakers today are Paul Wolfer, Senior B2B Marketing Manager, and Tom Baker, VP Strategic Partnerships at Claris Commerce. And I'm Corey Dahlberg, Senior Product Marketing Manager, moderating for you today. Claris Commerce is a leader in loyalty, and with our recent acquisition of PrizeLogic, a leading company in incentivized engagement, we offer full spectrum customer engagement strategies, everything from the data platform to the services needed to build and manage successful programs. Part of Paul's focus with Claris is on helping brands to better understand their customers and what drives loyalty. His team put together the data study we'll be discussing today. And Tom has 20 plus years experience in customer engagement strategy, design, and implementation with Claris, Time Inc., GE, and United Healthcare. At Claris, Tom has worked with many different brands on loyalty and customer engagement strategies across several verticals, including retail, publishing, service, and many more. Topics we will cover today include an overview of our 2022 customer loyalty data study, the drivers and disruptors of loyalty, the habits and attitudes of loyal customers, and balancing brand values and loyalty. And if you have any questions, please feel free to submit them as we go, and we'll leave some time at the end to answer them. So with that, I'll kick it over to Paul to give an overview of the study.
Thanks, Corey, appreciate it. And thanks to everybody for joining us today. Like Corey said, we really wanted to get a sense of what makes customers loyal and what makes them engage with their favorite brands. And there's a lot that brands can do to measure today. They can see purchase history and order frequency and AOV and things of that nature, but it's a lot harder to find out what your customers are feeling and thinking unless you ask them. And that's exactly what we did. So as a part of the study, we surveyed 2,500 US consumers back in September of 2021 to learn what's driving them to engage more with certain brands and who and what actually influences their opinions the most. The brand values really matter. How do loyal customers engage, and how much control do you have over customer loyalty? And that's what we want to share with you today. And by the way, everyone who attends today will be emailed a copy of this study, so look for that in your inboxes. Also, if you have any questions for us, like Corey mentioned, please feel free to submit them during the webinar. We'll leave some time for Q&A at the end. So when we started putting together the survey questions for the study, the first thing we wanted to understand was what actually drives loyalty and engagement. And just as importantly, what drives people away from brands. And what we found is really interesting, but before we jump into the data, we'd like to ask you what you think the answer is with a quick poll question. So we'll give everyone a second to fill that out, but yeah, we want to know, what do you think the biggest driver of loyalty is? Is it price, community, social impact, influencers, or some combination of everything? We'll give you all a couple seconds to fill that out. So it looks like the majority of people said it's some combination of all. Interestingly, 0% said social impact, 0% said influencers. Some people said price and community, but yeah, it really, as we'll see, it's kind of a combination of different things. So Yeah, like I said, what's interesting is all these things play into loyalty. But for those of you who said it was about, price, that does still matter. It matters to a lot of consumers. Things like price and product quality, they're huge drivers of loyalty and engagement. And these are things that you have more direct control over. And the reason we want to call this out is because sometimes this gets lost in the media. I mean, today you read all sorts of headlines about brand names all the time, but again, price and quality still matter to many consumers. But that's not to say these are the only things that matter. There are lots of other factors that play into loyalty and engagement that are harder to control directly, but you can still influence them. And before we explore that though, I want to turn it over to Tom for a minute just to talk about who influences loyal customers.
Thanks, Paul. In addition to learning some of the factors that cause consumers to be loyal to their favorite brands, we also wanted to find out who influences them. While consumers were split on things, and we have a few more categories in our study overall that we can show you, it's clear that friends and family matter the most. And that kind of makes sense if we think about the last 2 years and how we've all been kind of stuck together and you've been around friends and family more than anything else. But it's interesting because brands continue to increase their influencer marketing budgets. And if we see here, unpaid and paid influencers are about the same in the mid-40s as far as what happens with brands. There's data out there that projects influencer marketing industry will grow to almost $14 billion this year. Crazy number when you think back in 2016, that was only 1.7 billion. But we start to see how some more personal factors outside of endorsements, price, and quality play into loyalty and engagement. Nearly 1 in 4 people say a strong sense of community describes why they're loyal to their favorite brand. And I know that we just took the poll there and community came 0, but people are starting identifying. If you think of brands like REI, people really identify themselves with that because that's a community that they're all surrounding themselves about. And I'm going to go into a couple examples soon. But it's online groups, in-person events, if we can have them and when we have them, and consuming brand-related content were all the top drivers here. While it's been difficult for in-person events, I think people have gotten creative and there's other things that brands can do. So 3 examples here. The first one we have Lululemon, which has done a great job in building community and empowering their customers to lead a healthy, active lifestyle. A big part of that was their premium loyalty program that they set in place a few years ago, and they've been testing, but not only offers like free products and discounts like you normally see inside programs and free shipping, but also giving members access to exclusive classes that they had in store or other locations where people felt safe, advice about exercise, and so on. So that helped them build that emotional relationship that people are desiring. As we said, it's been tough to do in-person events over the last 2 years, but they've taken a lot of these things online. A great example of that is Sephora. The Sephora Beauty Insider community, which the Baker family is Sephora VIP Rouge members, which is the top level of Sephora. So we interact with them all the time, and my daughters have gone there to get their prom makeup done, to have that experiential piece. But they have the online space, the Insider community, which is for makeup enthusiasts or people curious about skincare and so on. And they can ask questions, participate in challenges, share photos, swap tips. And it's great for somebody, especially in today's environment, to learn about new things that are happening in the beauty, fashion, and other industries like that. And then the last one is Harley Davidson, which is also one close to my heart. This offers both online and offline community for passionate owners. We know Harley owners are very passionate. They have the HOG rallies all the time. They have the chapter events. They connect in person. I grew up in Danbury, Connecticut, which not only has a Harley dealership, and they have the get-togethers on a quarterly basis there, but also house one of the largest bike events in the country at this place called Marcus Dairy, where they get about 10,000 people on a Sunday come swap different stories about their biking lives. And I think that's really important. This just goes to the whole community. Plus, you get things like the HOG magazine with Harley. I mean, I can't touch enough, speak enough about that. But depending on your customer, there's a lot of things that your brand can do to get people to participate in this aspect of community.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see how brands like these have continued to provide their communities with a lot of valuable content and really like a sense of belonging, especially over the pandemic through the last couple of years. And the cool thing is that these brands are all really different, and so are their customers. But at the end of the day, what they all kind of have in common is one thing. It's, you know, their loyal customers really want to be immersed in these communities and feel like they're connected to your brand. That's why you see so many Harley Davidson shirts and Apple stickers, and you know, even if you've ever driven a Jeep before, you'll notice they have what's called the Jeep Wave, and Jeep owners, you know, wave to each other, and it's this whole thing. But yeah, you know, it's important to not only know your customers, but really to think of your loyalty and customer engagement strategy in a holistic way, because not all your customers are the same. For example, you know, we can see here these aspects of quality and price. You know, they seem to be more of a driver for Gen X and older shoppers. But we also found that younger generations seem to be more concerned with things like community and social impact, which is interesting. So again, it's, you know, it's about really connecting with your customers and even different groups within your customer base and kind of learning what's important to them and giving them that experience. And actually, Target is a brand that does a really good job. They incorporate both elements of, you know, kind of the price and quality thing, but plus kind of the, you know, the social good and community aspect to their loyalty program.
Yeah, being a Target Circle member, it's interesting because it gives members all the transactional benefits that add convenience, but also and help them save money. But members can earn back on purchases. We all do. You know, I see on my Target Circle account every time I shop, and my daughter just moved and buying her stuff. I check it every day because she seems to order about 3 things a day. And I can get hundreds of deals. I can also get a 5% birthday gift. But in addition to that, they do good for a cause. Members also can help direct where Target gives. The way it works, if you're not familiar, is that each time a member takes a trip to Target, they get a vote. And these votes get directed towards where funds go in support of nonprofits in their community. They work with 2 agencies that pick out these nonprofits that they want to direct the money to. And as each voting period wraps up, Target awards grants to these nonprofits based on the percentage of votes they receive. So the cool thing is the nonprofits are local. You know, it's not just going national, but they want to affect their local communities. And what a great way to give to your loyalty program members a way to participate in a positive social impact. And I found that throughout my entire career that these types of programs work excellent. So now that we have a deeper understanding of what drives loyalty, let's look at these loyal customers and what they actually do. But before we jump in, we want to fire up our second poll of the day. Which of the following actions do you think loyal customers have taken in the past 12 months? Buy regularly from their favorite brands, share data with their favorite brands, post about their favorite brands on social media. We'll give you a couple seconds to answer.
I think that the Jeep thing is really interesting. I actually had a good friend of mine throughout high school and college, and his dad actually had a Jeep. It's kind of like a second car that they use to go to the beach and everything. And yeah, driving around, I'm like, well, hey, why are you waving to everyone? He's like, oh, it's a Jeep thing. So it's kind of a funny example.
Okay, so we have our poll results here, and not surprisingly, 95% say buy regularly from the brands. Sharing data actually was ahead of social media, which is interesting there, that shows up there. But that kind of leads into here that, you know, it's not a surprise, but when customers are loyal to the brand, they do buy more and they participate in a community more. You know, loyalty leads to action, simple math. In fact, a good number of loyalty program members are checking in often. What we found out here, you know, is they're checking their status, their activity, their benefits, their engagement opportunities, their points. I know being a Starbucks person and going there, I'm checking it every time because I'm opening up the app and I see my points there all the time. So I'm checking in there. Or if I get my DSW monthly email there with where my status is there and how many points and what benefits I have coming, I'm checking it. I'm always involved in those programs, and that's the best thing you can do. So all that stuff is great, but where things are getting really interesting is when we look at the loyal customers and what they're not doing. How are they engaging with your brand outside of a purely transactional relationship? So, for example, only 1 in 4 customers provided feedback or filled out surveys from their favorite brand in the last 12 months. Not great when you need good data to build a better customer experience, or when we're going to become a cookieless world soon. You're going to need that information. Social sharing is an issue we'll talk about, but let's focus on data first. So, as you see here, most consumers will share basic info like email, name, birthday, but they're reluctant to go deeper than that. A third aren't even willing to share their name. The whole nother challenge is collecting accurate data. And how many of the 3/4 of the people there that will say they'll give their email, it's their actual email? I'm guilty of that. I've done that before. I also have my 2 boxes that are complete marketing boxes that everything goes there, and I check them like once a month or so on and so forth. But as a marketer, I know that's terrible to do somebody else, but I just do that. But it happens to us all the time.
Yeah, and like even in my email, there's brands that I consider myself loyal to. I mean, I like shopping with them, all that stuff. But I get the emails. I don't look at them. Because there's really no reason to kind of engage with them.
Right. Now, there's 2 brands that I belong to right now. I'm getting on average about 8 emails a week from those brands, and that gets overwhelming and so on. So, I understand why people do that. But is there a way to make it more fun and engaging to better understand your customers and offer better experiences? How can brands use incentivized engagement strategies to collect more data directly from their customers? The answer is really you offer them a value exchange. It's up to the brands to make sure customers understand how collecting data can help brands provide a better experience. So sometimes people don't, as we said, provide the deepest or most accurate data because they're worried about being bombarded with ads like I just talked about. But making surveys that are more fun and engaging and incentivized help the accuracy. Here's an example. To help Volvo collect better data on their audience, we leveraged their partnership with the New York City Marathon, which was virtual in 2020. After selecting their vehicle features and upgrades that they wanted on their customized Volvo, entrants filled out a registration form, including their virtual marathon bib number, for a chance to win their design Volvo. How cool is that? It's not only helped Volvo collect more detailed customer preferences, but also ensured the data collected was accurate, because if the person won, they wanted those features in the vehicle. They didn't want to also put in some crazy stuff that they never wanted inside there. So that was great. It incorporates the whole idea of aspiration, building what you really want and desire. Again, there was a value exchange that happened here. People were given a reason to share data with the brand, and you gave them something in return and tried to make it fun. Social sharing, same thing here. More than half the consumers have rarely or never shared a post about their favorite brand on social. Not great considering how much of an influence friends and family have. How can you get more loyal customers in sharing data and posting about your brand on social? It's not that they're not sharing because they don't love these brands, it's because they don't have a reason. Again, what consumers respond to is incentivized engagement offers or benefits. We know they're checking it often, we know they're on social media, and we already know how important the influence of friends and family are. Are the best customers acting like your advocates to their social circles? Comes back again to the value exchange that is presented. So we have an example here with Alaska Airlines, and are you providing the opportunities for the most loyal customers to engage in a way that's most meaningful? We assisted Alaska with engaging and rewarding their followers in order to generate positive sentiment on social. So Alaska invited their customers to share their travel stories on Twitter and Instagram with the hashtag #IFlyAlaska. The brand selected top content each month and surprised those fans with round trip vouchers, Shutterfly gift codes, and more. Now that's pretty cool, because it's almost a surprise and delight to these customers just for taking a photo of themselves on their plane, sitting in their seats, or during their experience where they traveled to wherever it was, Alaska Air to Seattle, Alaska, wherever it might be, and got people to feel the experience themselves. And I think that's the whole idea about social. Makes somebody feel like they're part of an experience. So we also help Wingstop, and I love this example. They broke the clutter of traditional advertising by turning Wingstop enthusiasts into billboards. Although friends and family are influential, there's still a place for endorsements, especially by fans of a brand. Wingstop launched a two-pronged influencer campaign that rewarded the first 1,000 Wingstop members who registered with branded sweatshirts. Everybody loves free swag. So once these newly identified influencers received their wearable ads, they could take to Instagram and post a photo or video showing off their swag. In exchange, Wingstop sent $10 through Venmo to them. A win-win for anybody. You get a free swag and a sweatshirt, show it to your friends, and they paid you an extra $10. How can you beat that? And that's what social is really about.
Yeah, and again, it comes back to that value exchange. And it doesn't always have to be a monetary reward or something transactional. I mean, I think Chewy is a really good example. My wife and I have 3 cats, and we get quite a few Chewy boxes, and I think the FedEx driver is really starting to dislike us.
He doesn't like me because my Chewy box comes with 50 pounds of food, and he's got to lug that around.
Exactly. Yeah. Talk about cat litter. So, but yeah, it's funny because I mean, Chewy has done a great job with kind of this whole, social engagement and the hashtag Chewy Day. And it's funny because every time the boxes show up, my wife and I say, oh, it's Chewy Day. And of course, the cats are not interested in what's in the boxes. They want to sit in the boxes. But Chewy does some cool stuff. So I know that they kind of pick people at random that have, kind of shared Chewy Day and their pet photos. They pick them at random on social, and they've actually been known to get these commissioned oil paintings of people's pets and just kind of do a surprise and delight type of thing where they send these paintings and people love it. So again, it's you can kind of give a monetary incentive. You can get people to fill out a survey to win their dream car, or you can just kind of make it fun and about pets. So there's a lot of different things that your brand can do. But again, the big lesson. If you want to get something of value like data or social shares, you really have to give something of value to your customers. So now that we've looked at the drivers of loyalty and what influences the behavior of loyal customers, let's talk a little bit about brand values and specifically how much do they really influence loyalty. We hear about values all the time, but what do you think? Are they really important to consumers today?
So let's fire up that poll.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I think this is where kind of the study took a really interesting turn because I feel like this is something that's on the mind of every brand right now.
It definitely is. I think the whole value exchange and where consumers think they're invested into a brand, but they may not be, was really eye-opening.
So this is really interesting. Most of you said yes, brand values are important. A few people said it depends, which is definitely true, as we'll kind of see in the next couple of slides. Interestingly, nobody said no, and everyone had some opinion. No one said not sure, so that's great. So just a quick disclaimer too before we get into this section. Some of the data here is going to sound a little bit conflicting, but kind of that it depends answer here. It's because your customers are just not one homogenous group of people. And the thing is that customers usually say that brand values matter, but we see that many of them, actually almost half of them from the study, they keep shopping with brands that don't hold their values. And almost 3/4 of those customers, they purchase from brands that hold contrary beliefs. And again, the way we phrase the question in the study, like these are people that understand that these brands do not share the same values. So they shop anyway. And why is that? Most of them said it's to get a better deal. So again, we kind of see the whole price thing coming back in here. But on the other side of the coin, if you're a brand that just competes on price, values might not matter as much. And I'm kind of the same way. When I'm just kind of shopping for commodity goods, I'm not often thinking about a brand's values. So that's a fine model. And a lot of brands fall under that. But to a lot of people and in a lot of situations, values do really matter. This is especially true once you start thinking about higher end brands or more lifestyle oriented brands. In fact, almost 70% of consumers in the study said that their favorite brand is part of who they are. And about a quarter of those respondents said that they strongly feel the brand impacts their identity. So North Face is a really good example of this. And we could spend more time talking about Harley or Lulu and Sephora. Again, great examples. But North Face is interesting because it kind of blurs the line between fashion and performance. And we've all seen people wearing that logo. The logo is everywhere, and it's kind of become a status symbol. So people aren't just wearing it, kind of trekking through the woods and hiking mountains and things like that. People are wearing it for kind of a fashion statement.
Paul, what are you wearing today on your head?
I knew this was going to come up. Got on my good old North Face cap. So yeah, there you go. Just goes to show you. And I disclaimer, that's not why I chose this example to talk about, but I am wearing a North Face hat right now. But yeah, I don't know, North Face just hits on so many of the points we've discussed already. I mean, their loyalty program, it comes with exclusive gear for members. They have a special returns policy. They had a dedicated customer service line for loyalty program members. And they give you points for everything. And a lot of it is the basic transactional stuff, but it also really hits on a lot of those engagement opportunities that we've talked about before. So for example, if you're a member of the North Face loyalty program, you're getting points for referring friends and family. You're getting points for bringing a reusable bag to stores. They're trying to be very environmentally conscious. So yeah, points for bringing a bag to the store, points for using their app, points for checking in at national parks. They even have a hashtag, which I've seen all over the place. I'm sure you've seen it too. Never stop exploring. And if you use that when you tag North Face in your gear photos, you get a chance to be featured on their website. It's pretty cool. Again, it's not a monetary incentive, but for people living this lifestyle and people that want to be part of this community, how cool is that to be featured by the North Face? I mean, that's awesome. So again, the lesson here is just that they really understand their customers and they found some really, really creative ways to increase engagement. But again, like we saw earlier, putting value on values, did I say that right? Yes. Putting value on values kind of skews more to a younger demographic, and we kind of see it in this chart here. But things like quality and price matter more to the older demographics, and things like social good and community stuff like that really matters more to the younger generations. And that's really the thing. So where does that leave you as a brand? I think the most important thing to take away from this study is that every company has customers with different motivations, and as we've seen from the data, some are motivated by transactional elements like price and quality, convenience, all that stuff. But a lot of other people are still, they're motivated by brand values. Some might be motivated by social norms, or maybe it's friends and family, or in most cases it's probably a combination of different factors. So the important thing for you to realize is that customer engagement is about taking a holistic approach. You need something that works for all of your customer segments, not just one or two, because no brand and no customer is the same. And that's where your loyal customers, that's what they're going to be expecting from you going forward in 22 and beyond, no matter what group they fall into. And I realize that's a lot to figure out and to execute on, and this is where we can help you.
Yeah, so if you need assistance figuring out that, Claire's can help you out. We're a leader in loyalty and customer engagement strategies. As you see here, we've been recognized by Forrester, Gartner, Loyalty 360, which we were just at their conference recently. So Claire's is not a new to the market player. We've been around for a long time, and we work with quite a few large brands that are out there, helping them with their engagement strategies, from simple sweepstakes to social engagement to end-to-end loyalty programs. We're here to help you at any time and chat.
All right, well, thank you, gentlemen. And that brings us to the end here. But I think we did have a couple of questions come through that we can get started with.
Sure, sounds good. Fire away.
Yep. So one is that you've discussed examples of incentivized engagement. Can that also be leveraged on the transactional piece for profitability?
Yeah, so I'll take that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think incentivized engagement is something you can apply to any section of the customer life cycle. So it could be on the beginning when you're thinking about having them purchase. It could be during the purchase event. It could be immediately post-purchased. It could be happening like we talked about during social engagements when they're just not interacting with a transaction and outside of there. So it could be at home, when they're at the shopping mall, anything else that goes on there. So incentivized engagement, I think, is a strategy that people have to think about holistically instead of individually. When people might think of an incentivized engagement, they might just think, oh, it's a sweeps that I do out to my people. Well, it's a sweeps that I could leverage. I want to get more people in the funnel. No, it's more people I want to keep inside my funnel right now. There's many different ways that you can leverage that. So you should think about that a lot more when incorporating your strategy for the year for loyalty programs.
Awesome. Okay, thanks, Tom. One other question that has come through. How would you compare fan-based loyalty to retail loyalty engagement?
So can you repeat that? I'm sorry, Corey.
The question is, how would you compare fan-based loyalty to retail loyalty engagement?
So fan-based meaning kind of like a sports or other things like that versus a retail environment. It's interesting. I'm a big sports fan. I follow some of the people that are becoming bigger players in that space of not only sports fan engagement, but sports subscription-based products. And, there, when you're talking about the fans, they already have a reason to be there because there's a game or there's an event happening. And you're basically surrounding yourself. You have to think about all the other elements around that particular event. So if you're going to a concert or a baseball game, that's the event that draws you, but the loyalty gets built around every other experience that's there, whether you're buying concessions and how do you get to the ballpark, and it's your parking, and are you staying over there, and any other travel, or what you're going to do while in that city, and so on and so forth. The shopping experience itself is different because you may have a need to go there to buy new clothing and so on, but it's not as much of an event. And you have to really use this to leverage people to create the event and drive people inside there. So I think there's a lot of pre-selling that goes into retail where it's a lot of post-selling that goes into fan loyalty.
I just want to add one more thing too. We actually, I'm not sure who submitted the question, but if they're interested, we actually recently did a kind of a poll on professional sports teams. So we did the major, NFL, MLB, stuff like that, and we asked a series of questions, kind of what fans kind of expect from loyalty programs and things that would entice them to participate in more leagues and more games and things like that. So just as a side note, if someone is interested in that report, we can absolutely follow up with that and send them that data afterwards.
Great. Yep, we have the names along with questions, Paul. So I'll make sure we get that to you.
Perfect.
One next question we have is, you talked a lot about experiential types of rewards. But for brand selling commodity products, can you give some suggestions on how to compete on things like price when it's so competitive?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good point. Obviously today, especially lowering the price cuts into your margins, and it's even tougher to squeeze a supply chain nowadays, especially after the last couple of years. But there are ways to do this through a loyalty program where you can do things like offer discounts, and you don't actually have to lower your prices or kind of devalue your brand or cut into your into your supply chain margins. I say this because we actually just did another data study. I'm all about the data studies today, but we actually just did another data study about a week or so ago around 2022 Valentine's Day shopping habits, and I believe we surveyed about 1,500 consumers there, and we kind of saw similar results to this whole thing. Roughly half of the people said that product discounts were the most important type of loyalty program reward. And I think it was about a third of them said like expedited shipping, about the same number said better return policies were all things that they really are looking for in a rewards program. So again, I bring this up because lots of people are shopping for commodities right now, like chocolates, greeting cards, all that type of stuff for Valentine's Day. And one example that really comes to mind is CVS. And I'm sure that a lot of people in the audience are doing a little bit of Valentine's Day shopping there if they're shopping for that. And they do a really interesting thing with their loyalty program. So they have two tiers. They have their regular points-based program that's free to join, and kind of comes with your typical points-based benefits. But they also have a premium tier called Care Pass that's $5 a month. And members of that program get 20% off all CVS brand products. So they don't necessarily have a lot of candies or things like that under the CVS brand, but they have a lot of beauty products, health products, stuff like that can make really good gifts. And they have just tons of commodity type goods. So as a part of the program, in addition to that 20% off branded products, members also just get a $10 monthly promo reward just for being a member. And the program offers free 1 and 2 day shipping. So that kind of can alleviate some of the, the safety concerns people have these days about being in stores. And, and again, it just kind of adds to that convenience. So, not every brand is CVS, not every brand has a premium tier, but, a program like that can kind of be used, to offset the cost of the benefits a little bit because people are paying a monthly membership fee to join. But also, so they're getting the discounts and things. And what those programs have shown to do is over time, really increase things like average order value and frequency. And they just, people want to use those benefits. And the people that join that program, they're really into it. So, over time, those customers become even more valuable. So hopefully that's a helpful answer. But again, just kind of one way that retailers selling commodities can get a little bit creative with, with pricing.
Yeah, and I just want to add to that. I had this experience this past week that I had to buy a new TV for my daughter moving into her first apartment. And I had a choice between retailer A and retailer B that I was going to, and it was the same price for the television. But one of them didn't have a points-based program. The other one had a points-based program, which all of a sudden I got $12 in cash back for that purchase. So all of a sudden the TV went from $329 down to $317. And okay, just because I wasn't getting ancillary services with that, I went with the $317 instead. So the loyalty program did make a significant difference in how I bought that. And it was price-based, but the loyalty program made the difference in the price.
Interesting. Well, thank you both for your responses here. I did have a couple of other questions that were more specific around our services and some comparison data that I'm going to share with Paul and Tom for follow-up right after this meeting. But I definitely want to thank everyone for your time today. We really appreciate you attending. Watch your inboxes for a recording of this webinar and a copy of the data study specifically. And if you ever want to talk loyalty and engagement, you know where to find us. You can head to claruscommerce.com, and we would certainly love to hear from you.